everyone. Welcome to Humans of Moving, a Supermove Original Series. So get ready to crank up the knowledge and excitement because you just landed in the powerhouse of relocation tales. I'm your host, Ryan Marsh, and I'm super excited and fortunate to be here today with our first guest, Joe Sanchez. How's everything going, Joe, man? How you been?
Going great, man. Doing really good right now. Just kind of getting my morning started and jumping on the call with you.
Awesome, man. Excited to have you here. And obviously, I know we chatted a little bit, was it early last week or so? And we share a lot of similar stories, right? So me spending 12 years in the moving industry, you spending a bunch of time there, and kind of that transition over from that moving side of the house to
Mhm.
the tech side of the house. I mean, what's that been like for you, man? Is it a little scary, a little crazy, or
Oh yeah.
a combination of both?
A little bit of both, man. Honestly, going from, I mean, you know how it is, going from waking up at 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, getting in the office, juggling who's showing up versus just kind of waking up and walking 15 feet to my office has just been huge game changer. I didn't realize how much my life was spent commuting now that I'm not commuting, which has been huge. But no, it's been different. It's completely not what I was expecting, to be honest with you, in a good way. But yeah, I won't lie. There's definitely parts of me that misses like the 30 texts from my guys and the bunch of phone calls. Going from that to complete silence is just a huge adjustment on my part.
Yeah,
But
that
yeah,
that was the biggest piece for me there was, and I'm sure we both started in the same movie, is every day, every morning, couple hundred emails, 40, 50 texts, the phone always ringing off the hook. And it was just like weekends, nights, all of that.
oh
And
yeah.
and like you said, man, my phone it's not silent, but I am not living like death by that phone 24/7. It's just crazy. It's been insane.
Oh yeah. I noticed like I just went on a run the other day and boom. Oh hey, my cell phone's on my pocket and that's okay, So that's been huge. But yeah, it's still, kind of miss it a little bit. The hustle and bustle, the 40, 50 different people interactions versus just me and my dog, just hanging out.
No, there's no doubt I miss. I mean, that's I think the one thing about this industry is just it's the people that
Yeah.
make it this industry that are just so awesome to work with. And that was my biggest fear when I decided to leave the moving industry and just say, hey, what do I want to be when I grow up? And it was I didn't want to leave the industry. It was more I want to leave the people. Like if I could take the people and insert somewhere else would be awesome, but obviously that just doesn't work that way. So for me, it was leaving the people that I worked with for 12 years, both at in our home office, both at for the van line that I had worked for,
Right.
and then, all the different agents that over the 12 plus years that you work with, you form relationships with. I mean, they're helping out with your national account moves or some commercial moves that you booked, and just all those wonderful relationships. But the cool thing now, and I'm sure you're probably starting to see it or you're getting there, is we can still work with our movers, right?
Oh yeah.
Doing what we do, we can still have that awesome impact on them. But ultimately, like my piece was like the customer experience. Like I love providing that exceptional customer experience. I still feel like I have a hand on that though, right? From what we put out there, how moving companies kind of leverage our technology and push that out to their movers. I feel like we're still having that ultimate impact and providing that delightful experience, which kept me in the industry for as long as I was.
I think you kind of really hit a good point there is that when I was leaving the moving industry, I didn't really want to leave the moving industry entirely, right? I think I've got 7, 8 years in it, in one form or shape or the other, and I still want to contribute to the industry and help out the industry, but want to do something different. And that's why I was, when Supermove and I kind of collided, it was a great fit on my end, and I believe on Superman's as well. Um, I could still be in the industry and help movers while actually doing that daily grind as well. It's a different kind of grind, but it's the one that I feel like I'm touching more of the market than I was before.
That's awesome, man. What's been the biggest challenge for you? Um, would you say, and I'll let you know kind of what my challenge well, that transition from, the prehistoric industry sort of say over to this crazy tech world, crazy, everybody's moving super, super fast, doing crazy things at all times. Like, what is there one little nugget where you're like, just like, wow, like, holy cow.
Oh
Or is
yeah.
there nuggets, I would think.
No, the workforce, I would say just being here in Supermove, I have people on the East Coast, West Coast, other countries, and delegating, communicating with them all at the same time, but different time zones. That's been a big change. And then the type of workers too, going from dealing with movers and vendors versus more of the tech world is completely different vocabulary, completely different mannerisms. And doing it remotely and virtually is different because, one of the things that I really got good at and prided myself on was being able to read people, and via screen is completely different than in person. So lots of adjusting there.
Yeah, no doubt. And that was, I was concerned with, I've never been a full remote worker before. And obviously when COVID hit, yeah, we were all kind of forced to remote work. Obviously, thank God for technology at that point, because we could still carry on and continue, whether it be virtual surveys or move management software or what have you. But I will tell you how crazy it is, and you'll see this, like how close you get to people, even though this is remote and we've been on
Right.
screens for the past, 9 months, I think I've been with Supermove now, like how close I get with people. I know we've had, a couple people leave the organization for personal reasons, things like that, and just like how, like it broke my heart when they left. And it's like I only met them once or twice in person, but it's just like I feel like we work so darn close together day in, day out, that like when they left, it was like a piece of me kind of left as well. And it was like, sitting back trying to reflect on them, just like, man, how I can't believe how close you get through a Zoom piece. And I know there's a lot of people out there that say it's, Zoom's not personal or the virtual surveys aren't personal, but I'll be the first one to wave that white flag and say I surrender, man. I was, heartbroken a couple times when we lost some folks, and like I just get super close like that. So whether it's a Zoom or in person, I just didn't realize the impact that meeting with people day in, day out for as much as we have would have that impact. It's pretty wild.
Well, I've been finding myself having daily hour-long conversations with coworkers, and I feel like because they're not as often, they're higher quality as well, which has been great as far as just time management and just making the most of your words. Is again, it's a different mindset, but it's a good one, and I'm learning to love it.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm super excited to have you aboard, and you're already crushing it as it is, which is great, just coming out of the gate. We're kind of jumping on a little bit, but how do you think technology is kind of reshaping the traditional moving experience? And this is one of the things where, I was just at a couple conferences over here, and, you hear people talk about, well, I still want to pick up the phones. I still want to do it the old way because the old way works. And it does, but there's a way that we can honor those, legacy practices, but just leveraging that technology that we have that's available for the movers today to just become greater, to streamline and become more profitable. So,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, from your experience jumping where you were to kind of what you're playing in now, I mean, how do you feel that tech is reshaping what you did, how you did, and basically ultimately what your team and customers are getting out of that, if that makes sense? Or I was probably too long-winded on that one,
No, no,
but
no, no, that's perfect. So one example, right? Virtual estimating. Yeah, that's been a big one with companies that are coming out that can do AI surveys versus old school. The way I was taught was like, okay, what is the weight? Can you visualize in your head? All right, 3/4, full truck. All right, that's going to be 3 hour load, 2 hour offload. Send out the estimate. Boom. Versus now where it's so precise and you're really able to capitalize on your estimates where you're not maybe hurting yourself on a not to exceed, right? You're getting it spot on, or that it all fits perfectly, but there's still half a truck left over. So then you have the chance to train your crews and better optimize them as well. I believe, going from the old gut instinct to, oh, I've been doing this for 20 years, so I know it'll fit, etc., versus more of a precise measurement and accuracy. Even when it comes down to 30 minutes, 30 minutes of every single job is a lot of time.
yeah,
Um, Leads to a lot more quality customer satisfaction too. It's like, hey, this is what they said happened was actually going to happen, right? And it's going to be, this is the actual price that it's going to be, this amount of hours. So I can uh, accurately logistically plan my move, especially if you're moving across the country. That was a huge change that I started because I started off on one end and then just kind of progressed through the tech side of it and seeing all these kind of older guys like, oh, my job will never be taken by a computer, or it's no way it's accurate, or it's not the same customer service. Well, it's all of those things and then some. And that's been a big mindset change for us as well, is when talking to some of these older movers who are like, I've been in business for 20 years. I've got a great reputation. Maybe I don't have a website, but I still have work, and they kind of resist the change. And unfortunately, some of those are the ones that we don't see in the next season or the season after that. And it's sad to say because they might do good work, but they're just not adapting to the times.
No, I think you're spot on with that, Joe. And just you look at the average consumer now, right? And I just heard this again a couple of weeks ago as well. I only move older folks who don't embrace technology, but yet they're also having, one of the back-to-back worst years that they've ever had. And it's just like, is it the technology you think that the customers don't want, or are you going after the wrong customers, or what are you? To me, it was like our customer again. You got to know the market that you're into. I mean, I guess if you're living if all you are servicing is nursing homes and things like that, yeah, you're probably going to have to go on site. You're probably going to have to handwrite the estimate because these people don't even have an AOL email address, right? But I mean, if you just, I look in our area and we're smaller, rural, what have you. I mean, everybody embraced tech. There's a lot of colleges and universities, and we moved a lot of the younger, I say, I still consider myself young at 38, but a lot of folks that were my age. And I remember handing them paper estimates and they're just like, what is this?
Exactly.
Trying to explain. And just from the time I got to the house, walked through the home, spent 45 minutes to an hour, drove back to the office, hand wrote estimates up. By the time I was able to scan, fax, I can't believe we used to do fax, which is crazy. Did you guys fax back in at your
I
organization?
never faxed, but I definitely printed out a lot of map quests.
Yeah, whatever happened to the old GPS, right? But yeah, still print out the map quest, get them in the folder for the driver there. But it's just one of the things that it's like, you got to embrace the new consumer. The new consumer is expecting that quick, that fast. They want to book the move. And quite, at least what I've seen, and I could be completely wrong, customers want to know, when can you move me and what's my price?
Right.
That was the main two, I mean, especially in 2021, 2022, when leads were an absolute plenty. And I felt like I was an order taker for those 2 years. I was no longer a salesperson or a guide to help them through the relocation. They didn't care what I had to say. It was, can you move me on this date? And what's my price? Which blew
Yeah.
my mind away, and then fast forward to where we are today. It's like, we've got all the dates, pricing is a little bit lower, but we don't have customers. It's been a struggle for a
Well,
lot.
I think when I talk to a lot of the salespeople, because I'm still in contact with quite a few movers and that are, struggling, what you just said was a good point. In 2020, 2021, you were just taking the orders. You were an order taker. You weren't actually having to sell as much.
We
And
were
so
turning down business left
you're
and
turning
turning
down
it
business.
down.
Exactly. Exactly. You have you didn't have any empty trucks sitting on the lot. Now I will drive by moving companies and half of them are just sitting. And there doesn't seem to be, at least from a good chunk of the movers out there, any efforts besides the same old things that they've tried time in and time and again that just aren't working. It's like you said, the money is not in, it's with like the younger generation now. The millennials, they're the ones who are moving. And when I would go into a home and they had a paper estimate on the table, it's almost hard not to laugh. It's just like, hey, no, I'm sure they're nice people, but I'm gonna give you your estimate right now, print it, send it to you immediately. So before I leave the house, you've already gotten the estimate, signed the documents, gone out. And so you seem like a modern company.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that was huge. I did a lot of, and I was nervous at first, early on in the career, like booking a move in the customer's home, coming up with a price because I wasn't sure. Wasn't sure what the price was going to be once I had the weight, the packing, and all the cubes, so utilizing the system that we had. So I was a little bit nervous and fearful, like, hey, did I provide enough value? I saw the other two paper estimates, or the old folders that moving
yeah,
companies drop off on people's tables that had their card and 15 other pamphlets that nobody ever read anyway, right? It was just like
right.
death by pamphlets. So finally, once I got pretty confident, to sit in that living room with the customer, to work up the price, email them the price, show them the price on my tablet, and literally then work dates out and have that move booked within 10, 15 minutes, be able to answer any questions that they may have had,
Oh,
whether it be the walkthrough, the price, dates, process, what have you, was truly a game changer for us, booking on the spot. And again, this goes back to when we didn't really utilize a whole ton of software back then. Is I would literally, from the customer's home, I'd be calling my operations team being like, hey, we're looking to move on these dates. What's available? Now, what we used to do, which was crazy, man, and I don't know if you guys did this, but I would literally print out like our calendar each morning.
oh, wow. Did you?
And I would take that with me. So I knew at least a month and a half, 2 months out, like, hey, what was booked? So it was like my early days of a capacity calendar of me being able to like, hey,
That's
can I
great.
do this job on the spot now? Or do I actually have to call into operations to say, hey, here's what I've got. Here's what we get. Can we land this bad boy right now? And we took the storm over with that, and definitely ate up a ton of market share from the local movers that were in our area for providing whether it be I said not virtual quotes, but the quotes coming through a software piece and being able to book on the spot right then and there rather than to the home, do your piece. And then a week later, you get this quote in the mail or emailed or scanned to you that you're just like, I'm not even sure what this is, but I just had a guy in my house that says he can move me on this date for this price. Let's go.
Absolutely. That, and then once we started able to take deposits with our tablets, and just it was, one-stop shop. Basically, everything's set up. We'll check in with you a couple days prior to the move, and then we'll check in with you during the move. But that kind of civil service versus, snail mail, like you said, sending something in the mail. Did I get it? Did the rep put the wrong address by a digit? Things like that. Just eliminating those kind of almost human errors while still giving that human quality service by being in their home and shaking their hands, looking them in the eye, and just really gaining their trust was huge versus coming in with like you said, like a binder of papers, and you leave a bunch of pamphlets behind and you hope they remember you versus the other stack of pamphlets versus, hey, this one actually had me sign his iPad on the estimate, right? And so, they were a lot more forward thinking, a lot more modern. And, that translates to your movers as well. You got guys who aren't as like before, you hear a lot of, oh, my movers aren't really good with tech, et cetera, et cetera. Well, nowadays it's hard to find a mover that's not decent with tech, right? They're getting younger and younger and they grow up with tablets in their faces. So,
But
um,
that's a piece I get that brought to me quite a bit. When I'm out traveling, whether it be conventions or associations or what have you, I get it all the time. Is my guys don't want tech. They don't want to deal with that. They just rather go out with the paper. And it's hard for me to ask. I got to find a better way to ask the question because I obviously don't want any confrontation. But is
sure.
it your crews that don't want that? Or is it you who's running the organization that is also very scared to make that change because you're not also that involved with that piece? So is it you, Mr. Owner or General Manager or what have you? Or is it the crews? Because to me, our crews were a little bit older where I came from. And if anybody was going to have trouble embracing that tech, we were thinking, and not even thinking, we were planning it was going to be those guys. We're going
Right.
to be the ones that were like, oh man, iPads versus paper. And I'll tell you, they were some of the very first. One of our oldest drivers was like the first person to adopt it,
Oh yeah.
embrace it, and be like, "This is great." And then kind of went on to kind of let a little bit of training after that. So I think it's all in how the messaging, right? I mean, you look at what these drivers have to do today. Like it's not just manage the customer, manage the crew,
Oh yeah.
manage all the paperwork, manage that truck. They've got to drive safely to and from, coordinate. It's a whole orchestration of an orchestration, sort of say. And the more I feel like that we can alleviate what they have to do so they can focus on getting to the customer safely with the crew, right? That's the biggest piece for me is we got to be safe, right? It's so get to the site safe. Now it's, hey, greet the customer, manage that customer, manage your crew, let everything go to work. You don't have to worry about signing 15, 16, 17 pieces of paper at 9 o'clock after you just packed and loaded 8,500 pounds on a Friday afternoon, sort of say. It's like, how do we leverage this so we can allow these drivers to really focus and even the crews to focus on, hey, let's just go, we need to get this done here. I think ultimately, if we can find a way to do that, keep your crews happy, alleviate what's on the driver's plate, which is a ton. It's not just driving and just getting to
All
the
right.
house. They got so much more work to do. I also think that'd be a heck of a lot easier to keep your crews and drivers around longer, right? So the workload seems a little bit easier. So maybe that, the workload's easier. They can put a little bit more focus and attention on that customer to create that better experience that the customer ultimately is looking for anyway.
Mhm.
So
Well, one way when I kind of talk to those, in fact, I actually had this conversation the other week. One of my old assistant managers was getting a new position at a moving company up in Portland area. And I was talking to the owner, giving him a reference, and we got onto the topic of Supermove, as we do. And he said, that'd be great. My daughter is a lot younger, she's taking over the hands. I think that'd be something for her. As I told her, it's something that you don't have to wait for her. It's perfectly usable for you. If you were around a couple years ago when, we had to go from paper logs for our drivers to digital logs, right? I equated that exactly right to them. It's gonna be weird for the first week, but it's gonna be infinitely easier for you. Your guys aren't gonna have to fill out a paper logbook and keep those in his cabs. He can just go ahead and push a couple buttons and boom, easy, done, get on the road. Same thing with doing electronic tablets for your paperwork and such, get signature here. And even if you just have to have them remember those 3 or 4 signatures, that's all you got to do. You're not carrying around paper. Lord forbid nothing happens. Like here, we're here in Colorado, right? So there's a lot of rain during the winter and there's a lot of, snow. Sometimes that paperwork would get messed up or destroyed. So
Yeah,
now they're back without that versus the tablet that stays nice and protected in the cab. Just little things like that where the guys are already doing a lot of tech work, especially if they're driving the trucks, doing a little bit more on the tablet would probably make their lives better versus worse.
I think that's the other thing too is like ask your teams, ask your
Mm.
drivers, ask your laborers, ask your office personnel, like, hey, what would make your life easier? Like what absolutely, and this is what I've been asking a couple sales reps and things, like if you could pick 5 things to make your job easier day in, day out, what would it be? And the number one thing that always comes up is the follow-up piece. Is like I spend so much time between phone, email that I can't focus and dive into my accounts. I can't go grow my commercial line deeper. I can't go out and do A, B, C, D, or whatever the piece may be. It's just these nagging tasks, these nagging. So um if you had, what were some of the things in kind of your day-to-day that if you could have automated or alleviated or inserted or leveraged technology would have made your life so much easier?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of them did because, I'm not sure if we mentioned, but prior to Supermove, I was a customer. And so I actually ended up with it being a customer and then joining Supermove. But one of the things that,
Same here.
yeah, exactly.
We missed
But
that one the last time we spoke. I don't know if you knew I was a customer. I don't think I remembered you telling me you were a customer. So interesting. That's
yeah,
cool.
it's funny. Supermove has a way of doing that. Um, but a lot of it was exactly what you mentioned was sales follow-ups. At least not so much during the winter, but during the summer when you're getting all those leads and you're quoting, 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 and I feel like you spend most of your day just quoting and don't have the send out the auto emails or send out, follow-up texts or here's your estimate. You're just doing phone, 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 and being able to use a CRM. That's okay. As soon as you put all information out there, you click a button, boom, estimate sent off. Your notes are all in there, pristine, and then you can set up automatic follow-ups if they don't respond or book that day. That just the manpower, I don't know if you can really calculate it, but the amount of minutes and times you're saved, you can use focusing on your business or even just building rapport with your guys or focusing on marketing. There's better ways to spend your time and just being efficient as possible is really, really helps because all those little minutes and times and hours add up.
Oh yeah, I vividly remember we did a little a time study at my previous seat, and with crews coming in every morning, clocking in at 7:15 when they're supposed to be there at 7:30, whatever it is, 15 minutes a day from the time that a crew member clocks in before they actually hit the road and hit the ground running, and on a smaller crew, sort of say 6, 7 people, 15 minutes a day. What do you think that adds to a yearly expense in wages? Just off the top of your head, it blew my mind away. It was like $45,000.
Really? Wow.
45K
I
to
can see
again that
that
whole
actually.
efficiency of, hey, bring the driver in early, do the pre-trip, crew comes in, they do their thing, and boom. So the whole clocking in and grabbing some coffee or running to the bathroom or running back out to the car, having a couple smokes before they get in the truck or whatever it was costing us just shy of $50,000 a
Mm.
year. So again, I think a lot of that is, I don't know how we jumped into savings, or not savings, but just some time piece here. That's why I love this, man. These conversations can go anywhere. And I love
Exactly.
talking to fellow movers. And again, I'm starting to get all fired up again, like I'm back in seat here. But it's those little things, man. I mean, I look at how long it took me to, from the time a lead came in to the time I was able to do the survey, to quote it, to get the quote out to the customer, in some cases with days,
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. If that was if we have to do an on-site survey or something like that, kind of
Right.
going back to the old school way, to days for a quote, to now you're talking 10, 15 minutes from the time a lead comes in to you shoot them the virtual survey aspect, they survey the home, you view it, you quote it, you ship it, you book it, 15 minutes. So I was big kind of in that time savings piece. Like, what could I do to alleviate how much time I'm spending here, here, and here, so I can actually try to go and focus on what I need to get done.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to be a little cautious of time here. I don't want to keep. I know you got a pretty busy day ahead of you here, but kind of transitions to that balancing tradition and innovation in moving. I know we kind of touch on this a little bit, but what does that mean to you from I guess, kind of two hats. Your old world, balancing that, traditional moving, traditional operations, traditional dispatching to this new innovation in tech side in moving. I guess it's kind of a long-winded question. Again, I'm bad at that, but
No, you're okay.
what does that mean
Um,
to you? You know,
Well, I try not to look at it as two different things, honestly. The biggest tradition, when you kind of say that to me, it kind of leaves me back to what is it like for your movers, your guys driving the trucks and loading the trucks. Because there's so many things that I've seen across the country that different branches do that they all work, right? Just building that kind of sense of almost culture within the moving industry. Well, those who fight automation, or technology and such, they're kind of going against the wave, and they're really not, I think, thinking big enough, really. If you're telling me I can save half an hour or an hour a day, right? And I can spend that time on my guys who are going to be able to have more, loyalty or take care of our customers better because we're taking care of our movers better, that the ROI on that is huge. And
huge.
giving more time for me to be able to have tradition as well. Sometimes in the summer you don't have time to go to the restroom or drink or eat, right?
If
Um,
you're drinking, it's from a fire hose. I always felt like in the summertime.
exactly. Just gives you more breathing room and also leads to less burnout, which then leads to you being able to provide more quality service to your employees, your office, your team, your movers, and your customers. And taking care of everyone underneath you, the biggest, I guess, result of that is them taking care of your customers. And, when you have customers that are being taken care of and getting quality service, that's only going to help you and your brand grow and the
Yeah.
quality of your guys. Let's say I take that extra 30 minutes every day and just do a training session in the morning. It's like, guys, this is how we properly pack a TV. Guys, this is how we properly protect the corners of a house. Just little lessons like that. Because, you're always having constant new movers versus kind of like, hey, get on the truck, learn as you go.
Yeah.
Those little things that you can do can really optimize your organization and really feed and grow the market and drive up quality as a standard too.
Oh, that's great, man. No, it's exactly what I wasn't planning sure what you were going to say, but yeah, the tradition and innovation, you kind of look at that hand in hand here. Again, goes back to you can honor those legacy practices that, the first generation, second generation, and third generation did. It worked, it got you there. However, there's better ways to do things now. Leverage the technology, become efficient, and your business is just going to absolutely just become supercharged. So obviously being cautious of time, I didn't mention this to you here, but I got 3 hot seat questions for
All
you.
right, let's go.
Didn't prep you, didn't warn you, what have you, but here we go. And then we're going to end this up here for the first episode of Humans of Moving. If you could have dinner, Joe, with one person, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Mm. Dinner, one person, dead or alive. Alive, I'd probably have to say Santana, just because I'm a huge fan of his music. Uh,
Okay.
uh, Dead, I'd probably say Tolkien because I'm a huge fan of his books, and dude wrote books and he didn't even know it at the time, but changed the world after that. And just I want to kind of get into the brain of someone who can do that. So yeah, and even if it's just over dinner. So those would be my two, dead or alive.
Awesome. And question number 2, what's the most unusual talent or skill you possess that not many people know about? Now be careful because everyone's going to be seeing this thing here. So
You know what? That's a good one. You remember when they had that fad or little fashion little fad, I would say, where they were stacking brooms upright?
yeah,
Well, I saw a lot of movers doing the same thing with the dolly, and I actually at the time got pretty good at stacking the dollies kind of
you
diagonally.
have that thing just going like
Yeah,
this.
exactly. So that was a weird talent that I didn't expect to be good at. Yeah, yeah, I would have to say I wasn't expecting
Roadshow
that.
Joe stacking dollies, man. I'd love to. When I see you in person, man, we're gonna get a dolly.
We're
I want
gonna
to see
get
how long it takes you to get that bad boy balanced. Last question. This is a weird one here. What's your weirdest habit that you're willing to admit on air?
my weirdest habit that I'm willing to admit on
I'll tell
air.
you mine, man. I'll go first, and this is what I'm probably gonna make a fool of myself, but I am like a sniffer. I smell everything. So food before I eat it, a drink before I drink it, clothing before I buy it. I'm like a king sniffer. They call me Captain Canine as a joke, inside joke with friends and family here. But yeah, I'm a big sniffer, which is super weird. But it's my weirdest habit that uh, this I'm admitting on air here.
Well, I would say I don't know if it falls into the category of weird, maybe a little obsessive, but every morning I can't do anything else until my bed is made, and I don't know where that comes from or what happened somewhere along my programming, but if I get out and I realize I didn't make the bed that day, it'll bug me all day, and it's nothing else really gets to me, but that does. So I would say that's probably the weirdest one.
And it's interesting you said, and it's the last thing I'll hit here before we roll is, and I forget who said this, but I watched something not too long ago about tasks throughout the day. So getting up every morning and basically starting off that first task, that first accomplishment of making your bed truly kind of paves the way of, hey, task one is done. Let's move on. In worst case, if you have a really, really bad day, when you go back to sleep at night, you go back to a really nice made bed. And I
Yes.
forget who, I feel like it was somebody in the military that did a commencement speech or something about that. And it was just really, it was really
Oh,
powerful making
that
your bed in
Admiral.
the morning. I'm going to find it and send it to you, Joe, because I read, like, the hair stood up and I'm like, wow, I better start making my bed because it's the morning and I've got piles and, sheets and pillows all over the place. So, but no, man, thank you, Joe, for popping on here for our episode of Humans of Moving. For everybody that's listening or watching, you'd like to be on the show, please shoot us an email. If you're a mover, a shaker, or just as passionate as we are about this industry, please shoot us an email at info@supermove.com. We'd love to have you on the show, and appreciate you all for watching and joining. We'll see you all next episode.